Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into a topic that has been making waves across Europe and sending shockwaves into Russia's military thinking. Finland and Poland, two nations with a long history of dealing with Russian aggression, are developing and deploying strategies and technologies that could literally sink Russian tanks. What we are about to explore is not just military hardware, but also the strategic mindset of two nations determined never to be conquered or intimidated again. Finland knows the threat of Russian armor more than most countries. With its long border with Russia, it has always had to consider how to counter massive waves of tanks that the Kremlin could deploy. From the Winter War of 1939 to modern NATO integration, Finland has continuously adapted its defensive doctrines. The Finns understand that facing Russia head-on in open tank battles is unrealistic, so they have shifted toward methods that turn Russia's greatest strength into its greatest vulnerability. One of the key elements in Finland's approach is terrain warfare. Much of Finland is dense forest, swamps, lakes, and marshland. These landscapes are natural tank traps. Instead of meeting Russia in open fields, Finnish strategy focuses on forcing tanks into areas where they cannot maneuver. Once bogged down, tanks become easy prey for precision strikes from artillery, drones, and anti-tank weapons. What Russia may view as an advantage in numbers is neutralized by the terrain itself. But Finland is not relying only on geography. They have invested heavily in modern anti-tank systems, especially the American-made Javelin and the domestically modified Spike missiles. These weapons can penetrate the heaviest Russian armor, including the T-90 and the supposedly advanced T-14 Armata. The Javelin's top attack mode allows it to strike the weakest part of a tank, the turret roof, turning armored beasts into burning wrecks. By supplying thousands of such systems to their forces, Finland has ensured that any Russian armored push will face deadly resistance at every turn. Poland, on the other hand, has taken a different but complementary path. While Finland has emphasized terrain and ambush tactics, Poland has been rapidly transforming into one of the strongest ground forces in Europe. With its history of being invaded repeatedly by Russia, Poland is determined not to let history repeat itself. They are building an army designed not just to defend, but to overwhelm Russian tank formations. One of Poland's biggest moves has been the acquisition of hundreds of American Abrams tanks, South Korean K-2 Black Panthers, and K-9 Thunder artillery. This massive investment creates a formidable armored force that can counter Russian tank brigades directly. But Poland is not merely matching Russia tank for tank. Their strategy involves combining this armor with overwhelming firepower from advanced rocket artillery like the HIMARS system. By saturating Russian tank formations with precision-guided rockets before they can even close the distance, Poland can break armored assaults before they reach Polish defenses. An even more decisive factor is Poland's focus on modern air and drone warfare. In Ukraine, drones have already shown how vulnerable tanks are when exposed from above. Poland has studied these lessons closely, investing in both small kamikaze drones and larger reconnaissance UAVs that can coordinate strikes. The idea is simple but devastating. Russian tanks might move forward, but they are constantly under the eye of drones directing artillery, missiles, and airstrikes. This reduces their ability to maneuver and forces them to move cautiously, which slows down any potential invasion. Finland and Poland's strategies complement each other perfectly within NATO's eastern flank. While Finland traps tanks in difficult terrain, Poland builds the firepower to smash Russian armored spearheads. Together, they form a layered defense system that makes large-scale tank offensives, once the backbone of Russian military doctrine, a nearly suicidal endeavor. Another important point is the use of mines and engineering obstacles. Finland is quietly building some of the most sophisticated minefields in Europe. Anti-tank mines, combined with remote detonated charges and mobile barrier systems, create death zones for any advancing Russian armored column. Mines do not only destroy tanks but also channel them into kill zones where anti-tank teams and artillery wait. This method of funneling and trapping armor is exactly what makes tank warfare extremely risky for Russia. Poland is also preparing for tank battles in urban environments. Polish forces train for city defense, where tanks lose much of their effectiveness. In cities and towns, infantry armed with portable anti-tank systems can ambush armor from rooftops, basements, and hidden corners. Poland has stocked up on thousands of short-range anti-tank rockets to ensure that Russian tanks cannot dominate urban fighting. With NATO intelligence and satellite support, Polish units would always know where enemy columns are moving before they arrive. Both countries are also part of NATO's larger integrated defense. This means they will not be fighting alone. The presence of NATO air power drastically changes the tank equation. Russian tanks, while dangerous, are highly vulnerable to modern airstrikes. The combination of Finnish ambush tactics, Polish heavy firepower, and NATO's air superiority means Russian tanks face threats from every direction: front, side, top, and even underground through mines. Russia has always prided itself on its tank forces. From World War II through the Cold War, the Kremlin relied on massed armored assaults to intimidate its neighbors. But in Ukraine, the myth of unstoppable Russian armor has been shattered. Images of burned-out T-72s and T-90s have shown the world that tanks are no longer invincible. Finland and Poland have studied these battlefield realities carefully and adjusted their strategies to ensure Russian tanks will meet the same fate if they cross into their territory. Another fascinating aspect is psychological warfare. Russian tank crews, already demoralized by losses in Ukraine, would face an even harsher environment in Finland and Poland. The knowledge that at any moment a drone could drop explosives, a hidden team could launch a missile, or a mine could obliterate their tank creates constant fear. Tanks are not just machines. They are manned by soldiers who lose effectiveness when morale collapses. Finland and Poland's doctrine ensures that tank crews will never feel safe. Economically, this strategy is also devastating to Russia. Tanks are extremely expensive to build and maintain. Losing hundreds or thousands in a conflict with Finland and Poland would drain Russia's military budget and cripple its industrial capacity. Meanwhile, Finland and Poland can rely on relatively inexpensive weapons like drones, mines, and portable anti-tank missiles to achieve the same destructive effect. This creates a cost imbalance that Russia simply cannot sustain in the long term. In the broader picture, what Finland and Poland are doing is not just about defending themselves. They are reshaping NATO's eastern front into an impregnable fortress against Russian armored warfare. Their combined efforts send a clear message to Moscow. The age of tank dominance is over. Modern warfare favors mobility, precision, and layered defense, not lumbering steel columns vulnerable to cheap and effective countermeasures. If Russia ever attempted a large-scale armored invasion into NATO territory, it would find itself losing tanks faster than it could replace them. Every road could be mined, every forest a trap, every sky filled with drones, and every step monitored by NATO satellites. In such a scenario, Russian tanks would not just be stopped, they would be annihilated. Finland and Poland's preparations represent the future of land warfare. By focusing on how to sink tanks figuratively and literally in swamps, minefields, and firepower traps, they have turned Russia's most feared weapon into its biggest liability. It is a story of adaptation, resilience, and smart defense planning that ensures freedom and security for their nations. And as we have seen from recent events, tanks alone cannot win wars anymore. Finland and Poland are showing the world how to counter old Soviet-style doctrine with modern thinking, advanced technology, and determination. The result is a nightmare scenario for Russia's generals, who must now rethink how their forces could ever break through NATO's shield. This is how Finland and Poland will literally sink Russian tanks, not just in water or mud, but in fire, fear, and failure.